Social Media News Live. So glad that you're here as we're going along today. If you find value in this, and of course you're going to, because it's Ian Anderson Gray. He's here with us today. And if you find value, make sure that you share this and sprinkle the love across the interwebs, if you would. And also, if you know somebody who's like, you know what, their live show really stinks, and they need to be like Ian. So call them into the conversation underneath. Let them know about this. Even if they can't watch it live, they can watch the replay. I'm so glad that you guys are here today joining us. Erik Fisher, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. I'm excited to be with my friends.
That's right. It's going to be a crazy show, folks. Yeah. So, and by the way, Grace, she is at Vid Summit, I believe, right now. That's why she is not here with us. So, no FOMO, not at all. Not in the least. I'm not mad at all.
Hanging out with all the YouTube
the cool people. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so excited you're here. Ian, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here. I've been a big fan of the show.
You're usually in the comments.
I'm normally in the comments, so this I don't kind of know what to do. I mean, this is a very strange experience, but it's great to be here.
Is it weird for you because like when I was on Elisa's show yesterday, and not being in control feels really weird? Like when you show up as a guest, you're like, you can't switch cameras. You're like, you're all at my whim. I can do whatever I want with you. I can bring up full screen. I can do all sorts of cool things. Isn't that?
But I've got all these buttons that I want to press. Like
I know.
I've got an alarm button like that.
Oh, that's very Star Trek-y.
But
yeah,
it is.
Come
and then how do I
on.
things like that. It feels a bit weird.
Yeah,
leaving you in control, but.
Yes, so
it's okay.
It's going to be all right.
Never a good thing.
We've got a ton of cool things to talk about today about live video updates, some cool things happening on LinkedIn. So I'm going to hit go on the podcast machine, and we will get started. Erik, you ready?
Ready.
All right, so here we go. Let me get everything set up. And welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff Sieh, and you're not.
And I'm Erik Fisher. I cut you off.
I know. But you're supposed to say more.
I know. I'm just asking, do you want to start over?
So this is what happens. So Scott airs.
It's a live show.
It's a live show. He goes, who is a singing tenor, alto, and bass? So I will sing bass. Erik will sing tenor, and Mom will join in. Anyway, so let's start this again. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff Sieh, and you're not.
And I'm Erik Fisher, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of social media.
In today's episode of Social Media News Live, we'll look at how to optimize the new LinkedIn live video events, explore trends in live shopping, and learn how live video may be used as a repurposing engine, which is one of Ian and I's favorite things to do. But we're also going to be talking about how live video will play into Zuckerberg's vision of the Metaverse. What? Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. So, Ian, so glad that you're here with us today. Excited to once again talk to you as always.
I'm excited to be here. I'm normally in the comments posting kind of encouraging, sarcastic comments and things. So it's great to be here in person.
That's right. Speaking of somebody who's here, he was gone last week and we missed you. Gary is in the comments. He goes, "Hey, you beautiful people. Good morning." Good morning to you, Gary Stockton. Beautiful to see you here. As always, thank you for watching over on YouTube. So I wanted to introduce my pal Ian. If you don't know who Ian Anderson Gray is, he is the founder of the Confident Live Marketing Academy and is the host of the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. He helps entrepreneurs to level up their impact, authority, and profits by using live video confidently. He is the founder of Seriously Social, a blog focused on live video and social media tools. He's an international speaker. He's a trainer, a teacher, a consultant. He has a passion for making the technobabble of live video and social media marketing easy to understand, as well as being a geek, a husband, a dad to 2 kids. Ian is also a professional singer. If you've ever checked out his shows, you'll know that. And he lives near Manchester in the United Kingdom. Ian, thank you so much, my friend.
Oh, it's great to be here. I'm just thinking the whole international speaker thing. It feels like I shouldn't be saying that at the moment because I can't go anywhere.
That's right. So, it's well, international could be like your living room. We'll just call it that. So
okay,
you're in the UK, Ian. You're in the UK right now, and we've got people in another country, including us, watching you speak. So it works.
Yeah.
You're not lying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian, I've seen you and I have known each other for years now, and I've known you doing live video the entire time. I'm curious, what is your view and like what have you seen in terms of like live video changes since when you started?
It's just become so much easier. When I started, well, I mean, when I officially started, it was 2016. There's been live video around before that. I mean, you could argue like back in the noughties, live video was around. But back in 2016, you needed to fiddle around with, I'm going to use some technical words here, RTMP and stream keys and OBS Studio and all this kind of stuff. And if you've already kind of your brain is gone to mush, you don't need to worry anymore because it's so much easier to use live video, and more platforms. LinkedIn Live has become a thing, and it's Periscope was a thing, and it's died, and now we've got Twitter Live. So it's a lot easier. It's also, I think, because of the pandemic, a lot of people have jumped into the deep end. They've been thinking about going live for ages and ages, and then they realized they had no choice. They had to embrace live video in 2020. So a lot more people are using it. And a lot of the tools out there are trying to improve with new features and exciting things as well. So it's a great time to embrace live video. People have been saying this is the year of live video. And I think 2019, 2018 was the year of live video, but 2021 is an exciting year for live video. There's so much happening.
Yes, I totally agree. And one of the things that, both Ian and I and Erik love about live video is the ability to have a community and talk to people across the globe. And we have some amazing people in the comments that I want to give a shout out to. Sabrina is here. She goes, hello, friends. And she usually says, hello, this is Sabrina. I say, hello, Sabrina, this is Jeff. So I feel a little weird today. Ian's here. Sabrina's doing new things. I don't know what's going on. And so Garen says, you're a worldwide keynote speaker. How about that? Yeah, everybody knows who
That'll
Ian is.
do.
But Mike Alton has a good point. He goes, Ian really needs to grow a beard to hang out with you guys. So if you guys don't know, listening to the podcast, Erik and I have beards, but Ian sadly does not. So.
Mike, you need to take it up with my wife. That's all I can say, because she would not be happy if I grew a beard.
Yes. Sabrina goes, I switched it up, and Elisa filled in. She goes, hello, friends. This is Elisa. So thank you. I feel better now. Katie, thank you for tuning in today. But here's some good questions. So since we're talking about live video today, we'll get this right out of the way. Karim says, are you guys using Restream? We are using Restream to broadcast to multiple places at the same time. So Restream has a really cool thing right now called Pairs, where I could send this link to Ian, and he's able to connect with all his channels the same way with Erik. So we're using that to broadcast everywhere. And then Blair goes, what software are you guys using for this live stream? We are using Ecamm, and that's what allows me to create this amazing show, pull up these amazing lower thirds, have different shots of Ian, and so that's what I've built the show in. So if you can imagine a live show, you can create it with Ecamm, and you can find out more about that at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. But one of the reasons that we love Ecamm so much, it's not just for live shows. You can use it for presentations. Ian is the one who actually told me about the virtual camera, which allows me to actually do all this cool stuff with in Zoom or on other platforms. So it's really, really cool. In fact, because you said that, Blair, I've got a really cool video that I want to play really, really quickly. And only about 30 seconds, but we'll pop right back in after these short messages.
Wait.
No, it's actually a powerful live streaming app for Mac called Ecamm Live. So you're able to use your mirrorless camera as a virtual webcam, and you can tweak the colors right in Ecamm Live using their camera effects, and then bring this video right into Zoom, Google Meet, and pretty much any other virtual meeting app. You can even stream directly to Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn and bring in comments right onto the video.
So how cool is that? And you guys can find out more at socialmedianewslive.com, Ecamm. So you still use the virtual cam? Are you using the virtual camera right now, Ian?
I am, yeah.
So
yeah, I'm using it.
What are some other ways that you use the virtual camera in Ecamm?
Well, you can put on like overlays, this won't work probably, but
yes, showing all our notes. Oh, extreme close up, very, very cool.
Well, sound effects, or you can even play like your intro. Things like that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, Yeah, loads of things. It's great. I mean, if you're doing like a presentation as well, you can, for example, if I'm showing my screen on there, that's not very exciting. But if I was doing a presentation live, then I could cycle through my slides on the screen, just make it look a bit more interesting. So lots of cool things you can do.
Yes. So yeah. So thanks. I mean, yeah, so there's a lot of questions about what we're using. Those are the two tools that I use, and I know Ian uses too. As I use Ecamm to create the show, and then Restream to stream it out everywhere, because they only have to send one signal out, and that way my computer doesn't take a big hit. So very, very cool. If you have more questions about that, make sure you ask us in the comments, and I'll try to get to those later on, because I know it's kind of confusing, like when we're switching all these scenes and how do we do all that stuff, and we make sure that you guys are taken care of. But yeah, Ecamm is what makes it happen with the way that it looks, and then Restream is what we use to send it out to go to multiple places. So did I explain? You're the live video expert, Ian. Did I explain it well enough?
I think you explained that really well. I mean, you can use Restream on its own. You can use Restream Studio. Yeah, that's the kind of more of a simple way of doing it, and you can bring in guests. Or you can use, I mean, it's Ecamm Live is Mac-based software, and it works beautifully with Restream. And it sends the thing I love about it is you can broadcast to all these different channels, and then Restream will then take all the comments, all these amazing comments across all the places, including on my channels. So I know you're broadcasting to my channels as well, and those comments pop back to your Ecamm, and then you can see them and highlight them on the screen. It's kind of magic, really.
I remember we wanted this so bad, like back in the day with Google Plus, we had to have like a comment tracker and all this stuff, and now it's super simple. And Kareem says, thanks for answering, loving the background display when 3 are in the shot. So you need 2 pieces of software, Restream and Ecamm. That's what I use. You don't have to do it, but for the custom stuff that I'm doing, it just makes sense, and it doesn't tax my computer as much doing it that way. And Katie says, love that promo video. Isn't that cool? Those guys put together so many cool spots. I'm excited to show you some more in future shows. And let's see, our friend Chris Stone from Dealcasters says, Ecamm virtual camera rocks. I don't go live without it. So very, very cool. So Dustin goes, and there's our weekly Google Plus reference. That's right. I am set in my ways, my friend. So let's go on with the show. We're going to be talking this first segment about these new LinkedIn Live updates. So I love LinkedIn Live. I was lucky enough to get access pretty early on with the help of Jim Fuse and some other people, and I've been getting great engagement over there. My videos do well over there. So here's the skinny on the LinkedIn Live update. So a scheduled live stream will automatically now create a public event post. So when you create a scheduled live stream on one of our third-party streaming software partner platforms, those are like Restream, Social Live, StreamYard, and Switcher, it'll automatically show up on LinkedIn feed as a LinkedIn event post. So this has freaked me out for the last couple of weeks, because I had it, they were testing it on me super early. I'm like, why is this an event? I don't understand. So this change combines the discovery benefits of LinkedIn events with the viral reach and engagement of LinkedIn Live. So you'll be able to schedule a live stream. One thing you can able to do is you can do it more than 7 days in advance. And for pages with LinkedIn Live access, any super administrator or content page administrator can go live on behalf of the page. Individual administrations no longer have to apply for access, and there's no longer a limit on the number of admins that can go live on behalf of the page. So that's very, very cool. So, Ian, I wanted to ask you, one, have you gotten access to this yet? And how is this, how are you using LinkedIn Live, and how is it different from Facebook Live and YouTube Live and all that?
I love this new feature from LinkedIn, and I have had it for a couple of weeks, I think, and I think it's what all the other platforms should be using, because like on Facebook, you can create a scheduled live event, or a scheduled live broadcast. So say I'm going live next Tuesday, I can go live to my page and it will create a post. But as well as that, I could create an event, and it's all very confusing. That's the problem. Whereas I think what LinkedIn are doing is they're just combining everything. It's really smart. So you go live, but as well as that, it creates an event, and they are linked. And with LinkedIn, one of the things I really love is the ability, if you have guests on your show, then you can tag them, there's actually a speakers section, so you can actually add them. And I think I did this with Jeff and Erik, and you both got an email or notification. You
in LinkedIn.
said yes.
Yes.
And so it all appears there. And I think it's great. I love what they're doing. They seem to be really innovating, but in a really thoughtful way. Whereas I feel with Facebook, it's still very clunky. We won't go into the whole announcement posts thing that they create, because I know that it does your head in, Jeff. But this is when you create a scheduled post, it will give you that scheduled live post, and then when you go live, that announcement post will then say, "Jeff is now live." Well, thank you. Why don't you just make that the live video itself? But anyway, so I think LinkedIn is doing some great stuff there. I love what they're doing. I think the quality is great. I think the engagement is great. And I'm really excited about LinkedIn Live and what they're doing. I think they're really thinking about the whole experience of the platform, which is great.
Yeah, I agree.
Ian, you've had this for a little while. So have you had any ideas bubble up in terms of what these changes mean in terms of businesses and how they can take advantage of these new changes for their LinkedIn Live?
Well, in some ways, it's quite a subtle change. Businesses have been able to use LinkedIn Live for a while. The scheduled part of LinkedIn Live, this gives you the ability to have a URL that you can then share out. So you can send it to your customer base by email or on social. That's been been around for quite a while. It wasn't there right at the start when LinkedIn launched, but they added that. But I think what this does is it gives more of a detailed experience when you get to LinkedIn. So when people click on it, it will give much more information about the event date, the time, the end time, and the speakers as well. So it's just a better experience overall. In some ways, it's quite subtle, but I think this is good. And I know, Jeff, you were mentioning the ability to schedule more than 7 days in advance. Mm-hmm. That's exciting. YouTube, you can schedule up to a year in advance. Facebook is up to a week. I haven't tested this with LinkedIn, but I think that's going to be interesting. This allows you to be much more organized, and you could, you could schedule a whole 6 months in advance if you wanted to. There are two issues with that, though, that I just want to highlight. First of all, if you are using a tool like Restream and you are going to be multicasting, multi-streaming, whatever you want to call it, so you're broadcasting to more than one platform at the same time, then you have to kind of work with the lowest common denominator, which is Facebook. So Facebook only allows up to a week in advance. So if you're going live to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, it's the maximum you're going to be able to schedule in advance is 1 week. So that's one thing to think about. And then the other thing that I was going to say, I've completely forgotten because I was just focusing on that one. But yeah, what were you going to say?
So I have a question about, because one of the things we talked about when I was kind of doing that whole spiel about the news about LinkedIn was that the whole pages thing, that you can have multiple admins on your pages. Now, my question is, when should you create a live for your page versus your individual account? So I have, like, Social Media News Live has a page on LinkedIn, but I usually stream to the Jeff Sieh profile because, one, I didn't have access when I first started this thing, and I just got people trained. And also, I just kind of think that a person is more engaging than a company page. What are your thoughts on that? And when should you use a page versus like your individual, or does it matter? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, LinkedIn is still, as we say in the UK, in closed beta. So you have to apply for LinkedIn Live, and then you have to make a choice. Do you want to have access on your profile or on your page? Now, I think for most individuals or small businesses, if you are a solopreneur, I hate that word, or entrepreneur, then you have to make that. You have to make a choice, but I think go for the profile first, because if pages are just much more difficult to have that engagement and to grow that audience. It just is that way. Obviously, if you are a bigger brand and a business, then absolutely a page. Right. So I think it's just down to that. Are you representing a big a big brand or a company, go for a company. But for the most of us, I think for you, for me, I think it makes sense to go for the profile. You're going to get much more engagement that way, and a lot of people just prefer to engage with other people. So I would do it that way. And if you are going to go live to a page, then do make sure that you don't hide behind your corporate identity, and you do make it personable. You do put the human forwards, because that's one of the big advantages with live video. It is all about the human and the transparency. So use it in that way.
Very cool. So,
I'm curious, now that they've added this extended time to schedule on LinkedIn, do you feel like you should take it full advantage and, schedule it out a full week in advance? Or is there maybe a shorter window? What's maybe a best practice or what should they try and experiment with?
Well, and thank you, Erik, because you reminded me of what I'd forgotten before, which is be careful when you schedule a long time in advance, because like life happens, things change. Right. And what if you need to change it? Now, I've not tested this, but in the past, LinkedIn Live has not given you the ability to do much editing. You can edit I know you can edit the description afterwards. I haven't tested whether you can change the date and the time. It used to be that you couldn't. So I would be very careful. If you have to change the date and time later, or you have to cancel, then that's going to be problematic. So I think you always need to have that in mind. But if there's something that is going to be happening, maybe you've got a big event happening in 2 months' time, and it's absolutely going to happen, then do it and experiment. I would just say that most people don't really think about an event until fairly close to it. So I think it's more for you than for other people. It's allowing you to be more organized, not get more people to sign up, because most people, let's be frank, they're not going to think about it until a couple of days before at the very earliest, I think.
There's only a certain people, like Ian's show, I will put on my calendar, but other people, I just kind of show up. So one of the things, talking about how important LinkedIn Live is, Martin Buckland over on LinkedIn says, live video has enlarged and enhanced my brand. Each time I go live Tuesday at 2, I secure 2 new clients minimum. So that is awesome. That is very, very cool. And I know they're doing a bunch of rollouts. And Katie says, I just got access to LinkedIn Live. So if you haven't gotten it yet, keep applying, because I know they're letting a lot more people through. She goes, got LinkedIn Live for the first time on Tuesday. Exciting. Katie, I'm excited to see what you're going to put out on LinkedIn Live. That goes to another question, Ian. So a couple of weeks ago, Louise Brogan was on the show talking all about LinkedIn, and she talked about the importance of getting comments on your videos on LinkedIn. So how can we increase engagement during our LinkedIn Lives? Because sometimes we think of like LinkedIn as not the most engaging platform, maybe like a Facebook or a YouTube. I've seen really good results over there, but what are your thoughts about increasing engagement for your live videos?
Yeah, well, I think you can't force it. And LinkedIn Live, the people watching on LinkedIn can be a little bit quieter. So don't worry overly about it, because at the end of the day, if you're being consistent with your content, with your lives, and if you're turning up regularly and you're engaging with the comments there, then people over time will have the confidence to do that. But don't worry if people don't comment. One of the things I've learned from you, Jeff, is make sure that you prepare questions in advance. Don't just rely on those comments. That is absolutely vital. And don't get depressed by the number of comments that you have if you don't have that many comments, because that can get you down if you're not having that many. However, there are some things that you can do to improve things. So, ask people simple questions. Like it could be they could be very mundane, but like, for example, it's a Friday. Like, what are people up to today? What are you going to be having for dinner later? I mean, ideally relate it to what we're talking about, but sometimes asking some very simple questions, making sure that the answers that people can give can be short. So you could, because people might be typing on their phone as well. So don't ask for big, long monologues.
Essay questions.
Yeah, essay questions. In 500 words or less, what is your favorite type of food? That might not be the best thing. I mean, sometimes I will ask, where people are watching in the world. What device are they watching on? Are they watching on a phone or something like that? Or just get some questions going. But don't worry overly if people aren't. It just might. The thing is, people might not be in the situation that they can. They might be watching while they're while they're walking, and it would not be a good idea for them to comment while walking, because they might walk into a tree, and that would be awful. So just be patient with it, and over time you will get more people commenting. I promise you.
So that made me think of, we had Diana Gladney on, and I know she was on your show just, I think, yesterday, and she told me one of the things she does for engagement is she asks a polarizing question. So one of the ones she asks is, it's strawberry jelly or grape jelly, and everybody has opinion on that. And like, you could also do like coriander. Well, you call it coriander. It's actually cilantro or no cilantro, because that's another thing that people really get up in arms about, should you use it or not, or whatever. And I guess you could be like, beans for breakfast or no beans for breakfast in the UK, bangers and mash. I don't know.
Yeah.
Your stuff. So
yeah, I think, well, this is something that you've had Janet Murray on the show before, and she does this. She actually gets these slides, these graphics, and puts them on the screen. And it is like that. These kind of polarizing questions, or the kind of things that you've just been talking about. So you could create those in advance and just pop them up on the screen. If you start your show with a countdown timer, countdown timers can get a bit boring. So why not just put a bit of put some images on the screen, get a bit of engagement right from the start? Because the thing is, this is true about engagement. If you start to get comments right at the beginning of your show, or then Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all these channels say to themselves, I mean, if the algorithm was a human, it would start talking to itself. So, oh, this looks like quite a popular live show. I think I'm going to show this in the feed a little bit more. Let's ramp up the algorithm, lads. And that's what happens when they.
I didn't know Facebook had an English accent. That's really cool, though.
Yeah, absolutely. That it speaks with a Northern English accent. So that's what happens. So I think it's important to try and get that engagement, and don't be afraid of asking your friends and your family, particularly when you're first starting out with this, to get involved and comment at the start, because that will help the algorithm a little bit. And this has happened for centuries. When you went to the theater or the opera or something like that, there would be people there in the audience that would shout and clap, and they were there to kind of get the atmosphere up a little bit more. So don't be afraid of doing that.
Yeah, when I did magic, those were called plants, and so we would have plants, not green plants, but plants in the audience. And I when I first started doing live shows, I did that all the time. I'd say, "Hey, Ian, will you come? You don't have to stay the whole time, but will you go there and ask a question, and so I don't look like I'm by myself." It is totally okay to do that, and so don't feel bad about doing that, because I think everybody who first started has done that to some extent or another. Scott, our friend Scott Ayers, says trivia questions are a great way to get engagement, especially if there's a giveaway. So we'll have to show up for Scott and ask, on his next live stream what he's giving away, because I have nothing.
We all want free stuff.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, All right, Eric, let's go ahead and move to our next segment, which we've kind of covered on the show before, but it continues to have things break about live shopping with live video.
Yes. So TikTok live shopping tactics. TikTok is expanding its investment in e-commerce. Earlier this year, they started piloting TikTok shopping in the US, the UK, Canada, and it was a partnership with Spotify. And that deal allowed Spotify merchants with a TikTok for Business account to add a shopping tab to their TikTok profiles. And so they could sync their products, catalogs, to the app and create these mini storefronts. Well, now TikTok has announced that they're adding a slate of new brand partners for TikTok shopping, including Square, Ecwid, PrestaShop, with Wix, Shopline, OpenCart, and Base coming soon. And they're opening up a much fuller slate of solutions for TikTok commerce, including ad products, and later this year, a TikTok shopping API. That is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of mind-blowing actually in a lot of ways. We've been talking about live video here, and live stream shopping obviously has already been a thing and it's getting stronger. But Ian, what do you think about businesses starting their live shopping strategy?
I think it's absolutely vital for so many companies out there. We've talked about Amazon Live before. Amazon Live is a very, very exciting platform. And so it makes sense for networks like TikTok to be launching this. And we know how huge TikTok is. Whether you love or loathe TikTok, it is absolutely something that retailers need to be looking at the moment. This is going to be huge. And although this is not something I will particularly be using myself, my clients and many people I know definitely should be looking at this. I think this is very, very exciting. And you need to get that experience now of getting in front of the camera. You need to find somebody within your business who is going to be the face of your brand, of your company, and who's going to have that experience of getting in front of the camera and selling stuff, because there is definitely you've got to get that experience first, because there is definitely a knack to doing it. Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was interesting, and my daughter even showed me this, that there was this TikTok hashtag, which was TikTok made me buy it. And then they were posting these products, and then these influencers were getting, a bunch of, sales from that kind of stuff. And so we actually, this is online selling too. We actually stream as well. And I was just talking while you were going, because it's still kind of clunky, over on Amazon Live. Adrian Salisbury from Ecamm was over there saying hi, because he's going to be on the show in a couple weeks. And, I talk about like my, when we have the stream deck where I switch in these lower thirds and all that stuff, and I'm talking about that, and I'm able to highlight that underneath the show and make sales that way. So it's already here. It's already coming. So, Eric asked about how, businesses start thinking about their streaming strategy. It's also really important. There's been multiple articles about how important it is for businesses to partner with influencers. And the interesting thing was those influencers don't have to have like a huge following. It's based on expertise. So what do you recommend businesses start to look for in partnerships? I know you and I have both been on we've been on the kind of the partnership side. What are your thoughts of like what businesses, what should they look for?
Oh, it's quite a minefield, but you shouldn't be put off by the complexity of it all, because first of all, don't be overly excited by going for the big names. As you were saying, it doesn't have to be the big names, the mega influencers or the macro influencers. You can go for micro influencers. There's even a term which I learned relatively recently called nano influencers, people who have under 1,000 followers. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you're looking for people, first of all, who love what you do and get what you do. That is absolutely vital. Not only that, though, the people that follow them also have to love or potentially love what you do too. And so you've got to go out there and find not just one, but maybe a dozen of these nano or micro influencers and work with them. They don't have to have a huge following. In fact, there are advantages in them not having a huge following. They're far more likely to want to work with you, and they may, with the nano influencers, they may not actually require much in return. Having said that, I do think you do need to invest in these influencers, because they might be small now, but they might be bigger later on through your help. And so do your research first and find people who inspire you, who have the potential to grow, and who also potentially love your brand and what it is that you do, and invest in them. I think the thing that I found as an influencer myself, I don't particularly like that word influencer, but we all are influential in some way. But what's really important is that it is a two-way relationship. So they will help you, but you also need to invest in them too. It has to be a two-way relationship. I'm not sure what you think about that, Jeff. I'm sure you agree.
I don't agree at all. No. Yes. One of the things that I think is important is, and I think the savvy businesses are getting, really smart about this, is because a lot of times the engagement, you can talk to some of these influencers who have grown to hundreds of thousands of people. Let's use Instagram, for example. Their engagement kind of falls off. Like, it's hard for them. It doesn't get shown as much. And a lot of these businesses are finding, especially for niche topics, that those micro and nano influencers, like you were talking about, do a lot better. And, even, and it can influence sales, especially if it's a niche you're in. So, like for you, Ian, I know you're a spokesman and they sponsor your show. Restream does, because it makes sense for them, because you talk about live video, and that's their audience who you're talking to, and it's already there and it's established, and it makes sense for them. So, one of the things I would say, if you have even the slightest bit of influence, and I think this is very encouraging for people who are small or just getting started, that there's still ways you can work with brands, that they're starting to get more and more interested in the smaller, maybe nicher things, that because they're seeing that people trust you more. Like when the Kardashians say, Jeff, you need to buy this lipstick, I'm like, nah, I have my favorite lipstick that Ian had told me about that I'm going to use. But you know what I'm saying? The trust kind of falls off. But if somebody that you, like Gary Stockton shows up to every show that we do, and if I said, Gary, I really think this is really good, Gary would be more inclined to buy it than if some, just big spokesman on TV would say it, because he showed up, he trusts what we say, he knows that we provide value and information. So that is really, I think, exciting for smaller brands, that you don't have to wait till you're like 100,000 people over on Instagram or something.
I think there's one other thing I wanted to mention that's really important here, and that is there needs to be honesty and transparency. I've had brands that have approached me and want to pay me to say how amazing their brand is, and then when you talk with them, they don't want you to mention anything negative about them. And if I went out there and started talking about a company and I said they were amazing, and I was being paid to say they were amazing, and people found out about that, then my trust level would go right down. People would, my audience would quite rightly not be happy with me, and they wouldn't trust me anymore. So you've got to be respectful of the influencer's audience, and they've got to be able to say potentially some negative things about you. I wrote an article years ago called 7 Reasons Not to Use Hootsuite. And interestingly, at the time I had an affiliate with Hootsuite and a few other things and a few other tools that I mentioned in that. And I got a lot of affiliate links from Hootsuite because people read that article and they thought, oh, is that the only negative things about it? I'm fine. I'm fine with Hootsuite. I'm going to buy it. And so trust level is really, really important. So don't necessarily go for the people who are saying all the most amazing things about you. Maybe go for people who are saying some negative things about you, but they've got an engaged audience, and maybe they can say some positive things and some negative things about you, and you can work with them that way. It seems slightly counterintuitive, but I think trust is absolutely vital when it comes to this.
And I would
okay,
go ahead.
Hold on. Ian, you mentioned trust, and that's exactly where I want to go here, because you've kind of been giving some of the answers to this question I have, which is when people say the word sales, they instantly think, used car salesman and pushy and shoving and all that kind of stuff. How can we, what are some ways that we can still do live events like shopping events and push sales, but not be coming across as a used car salesman? And I think what you just said, trust is one of those aspects. Is there other aspects to it?
Yeah, I think it's honesty. I've never been trained in sales, but I used to work at a music shop when I was a student, and I was selling these digital pianos, and I found I was really good at it. In fact, 1 month, much to the annoyance of all the full-timers, I was part-time. I only worked 2 days a week. I sold more digital pianos than any of them in that week. And the way I did it was, if people came into the shop, I would talk to them, not about the pianos. I just talk like, how's your day? I'd have a conversation with them. And then I would say, oh, so what are you looking for? And they'd say, oh, we're looking for a digital piano. And then I would say, There's a lot of digital pianos here. It's really confusing. So I'd be using empathy. I would empathize with the situation that they were in. And then I would focus on the digital piano that I thought they would like. I wouldn't just talk about the positives. I would say, well, there's no such thing as a perfect digital piano. This one here, I think, is great, and I think it's going to suit all your needs. It does have this one disadvantage, but I think in your situation, it's going to be amazing. And I just treat them like a human being. Now, if I pounced on them when they came in the door and said, "Oh, you've got to buy this piano here. It's amazing, and it's half price today, and it's good," then they're going to run out of the store. And literally, that was the way. I won't mention the name of the company, but we did have a sales meeting with one of the digital piano brands who came into the shop, and that's literally how they thought we should sell, by pouncing on them, and it just didn't work. So I think you need to use empathy. You need to treat people who you're talking to like other human beings, and show interest in them and in the dilemma that they're in, and solve a problem for them and have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah. One of the things I want to talk to real quick about before we move on to the next section is if you are like a smaller influencer, or you've gotten your first brand deal or whatever, make sure you deliver. Make sure that you want to continue that relationship, and you want to go above and beyond. Don't be like highfalutin now that you got a brand deal. I've seen some people do it. Like, I've got a deal, and you want to be emailing that client saying, "Hey, is this working? What do you need? Is the landing page conversion? How can I help?" All that kind of stuff you want to do, so you continue the relationship. But also that leads to other ones, because other brands talk to other people going, I had Ian on, he talked about my, what I was doing, and I got these sales. This is amazing. And so make sure that you go above and beyond. Don't just sit back and go, "Hey, I got somebody to sponsor my show. It's made," So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Katie says, "Serve, don't sell." And she got that actually from our friend Kim Garst. She says, doesn't actually mean don't sell. She means do it as a service. Totally agree, Katie. And Gary says, "I think Ross Brand does a great job of talking about products live in a non-salesy way." And I think that is very, very true. And the other thing is like Ian said, only recommend products that you use or that you endorse. Like, I was a fan of Ecamm way before they sponsored the show. And by the way, you can find out more about Ecamm by going to socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. See how I did that? Seamless.
Wait, what did you say?
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
But socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm, because I love them. I love Katie and the guys over there, and I'm a fan. I was a fan before we even talked about sponsorship, and so that's why I think this is so important. Is use those tools, and if you love something, reach out to them. That's what I did with Ecamm. I'm like, "I love you guys. What can I do to help?" And then the relationship developed. And I mean, Ian and I spoke at their booth. We did an interview like 2 years ago at Social Media Marketing World, and then it's all about relationships, guys. And so I just I think the more you can do that, the better off you'll be. So that's all I wanted to say about that. But I thought that was a good transition. So next section, this is an interesting one, as Ian and I are big fans of this. So repurposing live video and the importance of that. So if you've been noticing throughout this entire show, I've been flashing up Ian's lower third. I've been putting the title up, and I'm using the Stream Deck to do that with while we're talking. And one of the reasons I do that is because everything that Ian says is going to be repurposed to put out on my channel. And I want those lower thirds to show up in an easy way when I chop it up later. So Ian, we both see the value of repurposing live video. What are some tools and tips that you use to do this?
Well, one of the reasons I love repurposing live video is I'm a recovering perfectionist, like a lot of people, I'm sure, here. And the idea of creating a blog post, like, this is what we're told. You need to create blogs, you need to do a podcast, you need to do live video, you need to create social media images. Are you exhausted? I'm exhausted. And just listening to that list. But with live video, you go live, you plan, like Jeff and Erik have planned meticulously, I have to say.
That's right.
You should see all the show notes. It's amazing. And so they've done that, but we've gone live. And then from this, you can then easily repurpose this into lots of different content. My friend Amy Woods calls these like video babies is one of them. So you could like cut them up and create these little videos on Instagram or LinkedIn. So tools, I know you're a big fan, Jeff, of Descript. Descript is an amazing tool. So you can just download the video from, or get it from Ecamm or Restream Studio, bung it into Descript, cut it up. Well, first of all, it will transcribe your audio into text, into words, which you can then edit into lots of snippets for all those different channels. So Instagram, square video, a rectangular landscape video, that kind of thing. And you can even put the captions on the screen as well. So I would definitely recommend Descript. And that's also the way you can edit the audio and turn it into a podcast. So again, with Ecamm Live or Restream Studio, you can switch something on to have your audio and your guest's audio on different tracks. So if I was about to have a coughing fit while Erik or Jeff was talking, then Jeff would be able to edit those bits out, and it makes it a lot easier for later. So you can turn it into a podcast, which is what I do with my show, turn it into a blog post or show notes. So I think Descript is probably one of my favorite tools. There's another tool called headliner.app, which is great for those audiograms and for those short videos as well. And my goodness, I could go on. There's Easel, there's Canva, there's those tools as well for those images. But I start the central tool for everything that I do is Ecamm Live. And that then gets sent out to Restream. So it gets sent out to all these different channels across the interwebs. And then, of course, I then repurpose that into blog post, podcasts, little video babies as well. And it saves so much time. It's amazing.
Wow, that was worth the price of admission right there. That whole breakdown there, Ian.
I have a question. So if, obviously, with a live show, one of the main points is to have engagement, to interact with the audience. We've been talking about this the whole episode. And I'm wondering, though, how do you maintain a balance between engage with the audience and yet also have segments that are worthy of chopping up into babies? That's such a weird phrase. To repurpose.
Yeah, it does sound a bit dodgy, that, doesn't it? Chopping up into babies. But yeah, this is the three audiences problem. And podcasts, there are advantages and disadvantages in using your live video and turning it into a podcast. Disadvantage first. Let's talk about the disadvantages. First of all, if you are used to if you want to batch record your podcast, then you can't do that with live video, because like 4 live videos in a row, that's not going to work. So that's one disadvantage. But and of course, the other disadvantage is you have to then juggle the different audiences. There are 3 audiences to this show. For example, if you are watching live now, then that you are in the live audience and you feel part of a community. So there are other people watching live. You can see them, you can see the comments, and you are watching live. Then there are the people in the future. Hello, future people. You are the replay audience. And so, but you're watching, it's a more of an intimate experience. You're watching on your own. You can see comments from the past, but no one else is watching with you. And then you've got, if you're repurposing it into a podcast, you've got your podcast listeners. Again, in the future, and a more intimate experience, even more so with podcasting. They're plugging you into their ears, but they can only listen. They can't see what's on the screen. And so this is what you need to think about when you're delivering a live show. You need to think about those 3 audiences continually, and you need to structure the show in a way that thinks about those different people. Because if you ignore your live viewers, they're not going to feel loved. But if you spend too much time with your live viewers, it's going to be really boring for your podcast listeners and your replay audience. They're going to think, well, they're not interested. The hosts are only interested in the live people, and it becomes really boring. So I structure my shows in a similar way to the way you do, Jeff. I have my live segment at the beginning where I chat with my audience, and then I trim that off at the end. What for the replay audience, they don't see that because I trim that off, and the podcast listeners don't hear that. And then with the main show, I will break it up into segments. So I have main segment number 1, And then I will engage with my audience. Segment number 2, engage with the audience. Segment number 3, engage with my audience that way. And quite frankly, on a live show, my audience ask amazing questions. So as on this show, like Jeff, Erik, you ask me questions, and then sometimes someone will ask a really amazing question or a comment in the comments, and you will bring that into the show. And I think that works really well for the replay, and it works really well for the podcast. What you don't want to do is get distracted by the comments and say, "Oh, look, Billy's there. Hello, Billy. Do you remember last week? Oh, we had a great time." That won't work. But make sure that you are engaging with your audience and you're making it valuable for all those 3 audiences.
I think that's really key. One of the things, and I think it also depends on, like, when I love multi-streaming, but a lot of people will have one channel that does better for them than another. So, like, if you look at Luria's show, and she does a genius way of segmenting her show. She does a live segment, and then she does something special just for her membership. But before she goes over there to her her select group, she'll go off to the side and start talking and wrapping things up. She does that so she can put that YouTube thumbnail at the corner for, like, coming up next. So she's thinking about her YouTube audience when she's doing her live. One of the things I'm doing, like when I go full screen to Ian, one of the things is I ask a question and then usually he spends some time answering. This is a great section for me to repurpose. Now, I could actually have it like this without the overlays, but because I know most of my viewers as of now are coming from social, I leave this. I know they're kind of goofy and they look like 80s, but so does Ian. But I do that because that catches people's eye. I've done tests with it on and with off, and that goofy little overlay that we have on there catches people's eyes for the social clips that I use. And so I'm doing this for the replay or the repurposing later. So as you do that, start thinking and testing things. What's working? Why is this working? There's a reason why we have this movement background going right now, because this catches people's eye if they're flicking through the feed. So Gary said, yeah, brilliant. So that thumbnails are embedded in the actual footage. Yeah, that's why I do that. It's a time saver. And this is a great point too, Gary brings up. Cher Jones asked her audience to do hashtag team live or hashtag team replay, so she knows where it's coming from. But it also, that's a great way, as Ian was saying at the very beginning, to signal the algorithm that people are commenting on this video, and it's really, really good. So excellent things. Ian, where's the best place that you found that your repurposed video, not your live video, but like when you repurpose video, is there a platform that does better for you than the others?
I'm still experimenting with this because, quite frankly, it's changing all the time. And so I don't think you might settle on a place for a little bit, but then things change. So for example, for me, I found that LinkedIn Live originally I was getting loads and loads of engagement. And then I found that actually pre-recorded video worked better on LinkedIn. And now I'm finding that actually LinkedIn Live is working. So it kind of changes a lot. I'm finding that I love Instagram Reels. I'm using that a lot, and I'm getting a lot of engagement on Instagram Reels. Not quite so much for the repurposed content though. So for repurposed content, I'm probably getting the most engagement, actually, funnily enough, on Facebook. So Facebook I'm getting the most, but that's probably going to change. So right. on a week by week basis, I think you need to keep looking at the analytics, keep tweaking. I'd love to say to you now, this network here is the best one. I found that I was multi-streaming to all these channels, and I wasn't getting. There's a streaming platform called D Live. I don't know if anyone's heard of D Live. I was getting like nothing on D Live, and then suddenly I had a couple of people pop up, and they loved the show, and they turned up next week on D Live, and I had to remember to go in and like work out how to edit my profile and do all these other things. So yeah, just keep experimenting and keep playing around with these things, because like my experience will be different to your experience, and it changes on a week by week basis.
Yes, great point. So keep the analytics, and keep trying. And that's what's the geniuses of Ecamm and Restream is now we can go to all these places. And before it was fragmented, but now we can all bring those comments in from every place. Like Gary was on YouTube, Martin was over on LinkedIn, Louise is on LinkedIn too. I mean, Facebook, Phil was on Facebook. I mean, all these people at different places. And it's so cool now that your audience can pick where they want to watch from. And I think that is amazing. So this next, and our final section, we only got a few minutes left with this, but I thought this was fascinating. And it's live video and the Metaverse. So, Erik, tell us, what is the Metaverse and how do we get in it?
Yeah, I love the multiverse. Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
Wrong.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
The Metaverse, basically, Facebook is going all in, and have been for a while, on their Oculus, their VR stuff, and creating worlds inside of tech. We're talking Ready Player One type stuff. And basically, they've come out with something called Horizon Workrooms, which, Jeff, I think you and I need to play with this on our Oculuses at some point here, along with a couple other friends that have mentioned it. And basically, it's a way to have more immersive communication inside of a digital place or digital space when you are physically apart, like a lot of us have been for a while now. And next year, Zoom it's been announced. Zoom is coming to Facebook's Horizon Workrooms. It's going to create a way for them to have shared VR meeting space to host video meetings and connect with like a Zoom whiteboard. And you're gonna be able to pin that whiteboard to a virtual desk or to a wall so everybody can see it. And you can draw on it, and colleagues can do that as well, or just watch. It's very interesting. I mean, we've talked humorously about some of the changes that we never thought would stay, like 24-hour disappearing images and video and live online shopping. And so I don't know if they could make VR a little less just lawnmower man and strange. Do you think, what do you guys think about this? Is this something that you could adopt? I know Jeff and I, you and I both have Oculuses. Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's coming. I don't think it's yet, but this is exciting stuff. And I think particularly over the last year, because so many of us have been trapped at home in front of Zoom, and our heads have exploded with boredom with the experience of Zoom. I mean, Zoom's great, don't get me wrong, but it's like you're meeting in front of a flat screen. It's exhausting because. And I looked into this because I thought, why are Zoom meetings so tiring? And it's because you're on camera all the time and you're looking at the screen, whereas in person you might be looking over out the window. And I think with these VR experiences, it will feel less tiring to have these meetings. But I don't think we're there yet. And I think these companies like Facebook, they need to do a much better job at making it less geeky. I mean, for goodness sake, Metaverse. Like, to us geeks, that's fine. But for the most of the world, they're not going to understand what that is. And I think you're right with the whole putting the headset on. I think it's becoming a bit more cool and a bit more mainstream. And I am starting to see VR headsets in regular stores. But the prices need to come down. And I think you just need to, there needs to be a real pull before people get on and put these headsets on. They need to know that there is a real advantage. And maybe the advantage is it's going to be less tiring. It's going to make meetings much more engaging and fun. But it kind of reminds me of, do you remember Second Life? I mean, I'm showing my age.
It's still there.
Wait, is it still there? Oh my goodness. I mean, people used to kind of call it Get a Life. I wonder whether it's we've got to think about that here. I don't know.
So have you put on Oculus? Have you tried VR yet, Ian, at all?
No, the closest I've got to is Google Cardboard, which is not the same. So it's on my list. An Oculus is on my list.
So I think live video is going to have a space in there because I've actually watched live video inside of Oculus. And the cool thing is it's a huge TV. There's an app in there that I love called Big Screen, which is like these virtual theaters with dynamic lighting. It's like you're there in the theater. And I've watched the SpaceX launch in there, and it's amazing. I mean, it's just fun. The thing is, if you haven't put them on yet, it's it is, you can't explain it. It's really freaky, but it's really, really cool. So here's the thing. I only, with only really super close friends and with, I've never liked chat rooms or going into places where I don't know. It is so intimate. Like Erik and I got on it together. We were testing some video stuff, and it's like he was sitting beside me, and I can't handle that with other people. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that I don't know. It was weird enough that Erik was there. I mean, it really does. It sounds like they're right there beside you, and you look, and there's his avatar. And now I can see how that would be great for this work rooms. And now they, like, I can actually draw my desk now and draw my couch and move between those spaces inside of VR. So it's coming, and we're going to be watching live video on there, and there's going to be stuff that happens. And it's intimate. That's the thing. Like, you're going to be able to do this with, like, Erik and I will be able to collaborate on projects and have a big whiteboard and all that stuff. So it's coming. So I always thought we'd never have a television studio in our pocket, and look what we're doing now. So I don't say no anymore. That's a stupid idea because stuff happens. So anyway, end of rant, but it's very, very cool. So I think it's going to happen. So before we're at the end of our time, Ian, I want to make sure that you have plenty of time to tell people where to find you, all about your podcast, and all the good stuff that is Ian Anderson Gray.
Oh, thanks. Well, yeah, you do. I have the Confident Live Marketing Podcast, which goes live every Friday. So actually today I've got Phil Michon on the show, and I have a bit of fun every week and sing a silly little theme tune every week. So I'm looking forward to when Erik's on, because I can't remember what style Erik asked for, but that's coming soon. So you can find out more about that at iag.me/podcast, or just search for the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. And I've also got a course coming up very soon. It's the Confident Live Marketing Academy, and more about that is on the website at iag.me.
Awesome. And where can people find out about all things Erik Fisher and your amazing podcast?
Yeah, check it out over at beyondthetodolist.com. It's going on 10 years now, podcast of productivity. And if you've got a headache in terms of productivity, I've actually got some short casts that I released in the feed that are out there from September. We're now in October, which is amazing. 7 to 10 minutes long. So if you need a quick boost of productivity, we've got some greats like James Clear, Laura Vanderkam, Nir Eyal, and I forget what the other one was, but those are quick little boosts. And then we got longer episodes as well.
Yeah, who's on your latest episode?
The latest episode, Dory Clark, Thinking Long Term as a Skill, is a really great episode. Check that one out.
Awesome. So make sure to go to Beyond the To-Do List and check that out, and also go to Ian's podcast at iag.me/podcast and leave them a rating and review, because that really does help get the word out. We are also a podcast, and if you would go to your favorite podcast player and search Social Media News Live, you can listen to this if you're not able to join us live. And with that, we thank you guys so much. Thank you for our sponsor, Ecamm. I've talked about them all day. I can't even remember them now. Ecamm, they're amazing. You go to socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. Our next show is Friday, October 8th at 10 a.m. Central, and you can find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Amazon Live. Appreciate all you guys for showing up. Andy Traub, thank you for popping in. Phil, thank you for popping in. Louise, everybody who showed up. We could not do the show without you, and we will see you guys all next week. Bye, everybody.